Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Hope you're doing well, hope you're having a good day. Keir Starmer has jetted out to the Middle East and hijacked the peace negotiations. He's meeting with Middle Eastern leaders, claiming that he has to keep the negotiations going for the sake of peace in the area and that he has been a vital cog in the negotiations from start to finish. This is all political spin by that lying weasel Starmer. Take a look at this.
What is the purpose of your visit here in the Gulf? What kind of influence do you think you can have?
Well, we've just reached this ceasefire, which is both welcome and I think there'll be a sense of real relief. There certainly is across the region and for the United Kingdom. But there's work to do, and I'm here in Saudi Arabia and neighbouring countries now to carry out that work in support of what we're all seeking, which is that this ceasefire should be not a temporary ceasefire, but a permanent ceasefire. On top of that, we have to acknowledge that this war wasn't our war, but my job is to protect the UK. It's already had an impact on the UK, and it's very important that we get the Strait of Hormuz open. There's a lot of work to do there. We've been convening a number of countries. I now get the opportunity here in Saudi Arabia and countries nearby in the region to have the discussions, to coordinate our actions, and to go forward collectively in pursuit of those two missions.
But this was a deal brokered by Pakistan, pushed over the line by China. We didn't have a role. Can we really now influence things?
Well, I think if you look at the Strait of Hormuz, the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom convened a political meeting just a week or so ago, brought together 30 countries. We've also had military planning. I'm very conscious that back in the United Kingdom, talking to the shipping sector, finance sector, insurance sector, energy sector, they're telling me that in order for them to feel safe to move through the Strait of Hormuz, they need to know there are diplomatic and political confidence behind what they're doing. We're here to build that with our allies. It's vital that we do so because my job is to protect the United Kingdom from the impact of this war. It's already impacted. I'm determined to make sure that I do absolutely everything I can on their behalf, working with our allies here to minimise that impact and find a way to make sure this ceasefire becomes permanent and to make sure the Strait of Hormuz is open.
You've just witnessed a masterclass in political deception. That man, the British Prime Minister, is trying to steal credit for a victory he has absolutely nothing to do with. And while the mainstream media obediently plasters his face across their front pages, they are burying the most crucial fact. The ceasefire he's cynically celebrating was achieved in spite of his failures. Today, we're going to prove it, and we'll show you the one person who actually pulled the world back from the brink was not Keir Starmer. The official story, the one crafted by PR teams, goes something like this. After a month of terrifying escalation in the Middle East, a fragile calm has been reached. In early March 2026, Iran did the unthinkable. It closed the Straits of Hormuz, the jugular vein of the world's energy supply. 20% of global oil just gone from the market overnight. Prices shot past $100 a barrel, threatening the worldwide recession. For weeks, the world held its breath, and then a breakthrough. On April the 7th, a 14-day ceasefire between the United States and Iran was announced. And right on cue, as if he were part of the plan all along, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer lands in the Gulf for a high-stakes diplomatic tour. He's meeting with crown princes and presidents, manoeuvring to cast himself, and by extension the UK, as the essential peacemaker. His office floods the airwaves with statements about leading international efforts and practical steps to restore freedom of navigation. The headlines practically write themselves. Starmer in the Gulf to uphold ceasefire. It's the perfect picture of British leadership, a steady hand guiding the world away from chaos. But this picture is a carefully crafted fraud. To see what's really happening, you have to ignore the stage-managed photo ops and look at the cold, hard timeline. Because the real story isn't about careful diplomacy, it's a story of humiliating failure, pathetic inaction, and last-minute intervention from the most unexpected or perhaps the most expected source. To understand just how shameless Keir Starmer's victory lap truly is, we have to go back to when the crisis started. In early March, after joint US-Israeli strikes, Iran hit back by shutting down the Straits of Hormuz. It was pure economic warfare. Instantly, more than 150 ships were stuck at anchor, global supply chains were thrown into chaos, and energy prices started to soar. So what was the UK's response under Starmer? On March the 19th, he joined over 40 other countries in signing a toothless letter condemning Iran. It called on Iran to follow UN resolutions. It was a performative, empty gesture, and Iran predictably ignored it. And then came the centrepiece of Starmer's so-called strategy, a grand international summit in London at the end of March. The stated goal? Build a powerful coalition to pressure Iran. But here's what the triumphant press releases didn't tell you. It was an embarrassing failure. The most important regional powers, the ones with actual leverage over Iran, didn't even bother to show up. Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar and Pakistan all boycotted the meeting. The only Gulf states that actually attended were the UAE and Bahrain. Instead of a show of force, it was a public display of diplomatic impotence. It proved the UK, under Starmer, had zero influence with the key players. Now, all the while, Donald Trump was watching from the White House, his frustration boiling over. He had already lambasted Starmer for not offering meaningful military support, for dithering on letting the US use British bases for strikes, and for projecting nothing but weakness. While Starmer was posturing with his failed summits and meaningless letters, Trump was getting ready to act. And that brings us to April the 7th. After weeks of Starmer's failed diplomacy, Donald Trump decided enough was enough. He didn't call a summit, he didn't write a letter, he went on Truth Social and laid out a clear, brutal and unmistakable ultimatum. His post declared that if Iran did not agree to the complete, immediate and safe opening of the Straits of Hormuz, then, in his own words, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. It was aggressive, it was terrifying, it was pure Trump, and it worked. Just hours later, with Trump's deadline looming, Iran capitulated. They announced they would agree to a 2-week ceasefire and allow a safe passage through the Straits while negotiations took place based on a 10-point proposal they had sent. The crisis that weeks of multilateral hand-wrangling didn't solve was ended in a few hours by one man's credible threat of overwhelming force. There was no summit, there was no coalition, just a deadline. The ceasefire was announced on the evening of April the 7th, immediately following Trump's ultimatum. On the morning of April the 8th, Keir Starmer's plane conveniently touched down in Saudi Arabia. You have to appreciate the audacity of the timing. His visit was pre-planned. He showed up after the crisis had already been solved. He didn't fly in to broker peace. He flew in to hijack the photo op and pretend he was the architect. Let's look at his own words. I welcome the ceasefire agreement reached overnight. He welcomes it. He can't claim he brokered it, because that would be an easily disproven lie. Instead, he executes a devious political pivot. Together with our partners, we must do all we can to support and sustain this ceasefire. Do you see the trick? It's a cynical sleight of hand and it's a profoundly dishonest move by Starmer. By appointing himself the leader of the next phase, the man who will sustain the ceasefire, he creates the public illusion that he is an integral part of the first phase. He's staging a travelling photo op to fraudulently write himself into the history books. His entire trip is being rightly condemned by critics as a meaningless publicity stunt. And it's not just commentators saying this. The truth is leaking out from inside his own government. One minister was forced to admit on the record that the UK was not playing a role in peace negotiations. Another source close to the deal was even more blunt, stating Starmer had absolutely no part in the deal. The UK didn't broker it, didn't know it was coming, and didn't participate. So while Starmer poses for cameras in Riyadh, the real negotiations are being set up in Islamabad, Pakistan, between US and Iranian officials. The UK isn't just a minor player, it isn't even in the room. And this is a desperate act of political theatre. Starmer was humiliated by Trump for his weakness at the start of the crisis. His own diplomatic efforts imploded spectacularly, and now he sees a chance to brazenly rewrite history. He's taking a victory lap for a race that Donald Trump has already won. So, while today's headlines falsely credit Keir Starmer's quiet diplomacy, the timeline exposes a far uglier story. It's the story of a crisis that endless, impotent chatter failed to solve. The story of a failed London summit that key allies pointedly snubbed. And the story of a blunt, crude, but ultimately effective ultimatum from Donald Trump that forced Iran to back down. The ceasefire the world is celebrating today wasn't born in a UK-led committee or on a private flight to the Gulf. It was forged on Truth Social with a threat that was as terrifying as it was effective. Keir Starmer is trying to pull one of the most shameless credit heists in modern politics. He's gambling that your memory is short and the media is more interested in a flattering picture than the hard truth. He's betting that if you simply look and sound like a statesman, people will be fooled into thinking you are one, no matter what the facts say. Is it about building a consensus that achieves nothing, or is it about getting results, no matter how uncomfortable the methods? Let me know in the comments below. Is it about building a consensus that achieves nothing, or is it about getting results, no matter how uncomfortable the methods? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The media and the political class will keep pushing their preferred story, but the facts are the facts. If you're tired of seeing the wrong people get the credit and you want more breakdowns of the truths they don't want you to see, make sure you're subscribed to this channel and have your notifications turned on. Who do you think really deserves the credits for this ceasefire? And what other political achievements should we investigate? Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you again soon.